I wanted to see more personal stakes for the characters. All we had was one guy complaining about another guy's taste in music, and it's like, oh, bomb went off. I'm going to kill you.
Hi, I'm Teresa. Welcome to our weekend show of Cocoon Cast, where we deep dive into movies and discuss all things cinema.
Hi, I'm Rebecca. Today we'll be discussing the new movie, I.S.S.
And we have some smashing Hollywood news, Rebecca.
Sundance may be underway, but the BAFTAs announced their nominees this year, and they're falling heads over heels for one particular film.
Great, let's get started.
Kira Foster becomes the newest member to board the joint Russian-American I.S.S. crew in an attempt to leave her past behind, which starts smoothly enough. But when a surprising turn of events on Earth causes both countries to send orders to control the I.S.S., Kira must decide what is more important, her humanity or her patriotic duty.
Rebecca, we keep seeing trailers for this, and you love sci-fi movies.
Sci-fi movies are probably my top 3 genres.
Ooh.
There's science, there's science fiction, and sometimes there's just enough humanity to keep you interested.
Wow, and I've seen trailers. I'm not a sci-fi gal, clearly enough. But this one actually looked interesting. I think one of the things that grabbed my attention was, I know you and I were talking about it wasn't the 3-hour or the 5-hour epic. It was about an hour and a half. Looked interesting enough. Lead actress, she was in West Side Story.
She was even in Wish. I noticed the star on your thing.
Oh, yes. Yes. I think for me also, Ariana DeBose was in this, and she was in West Side Story. We were talking about, right? She's on Wish. We got a nice little glowing star over here. And I just thought it would be good. It just felt enough sci-fi enough that it would be interesting. It wasn't like an overload. It felt pretty straightforward, right? The Russian cosmonauts, 3 NASA engineers come together on the International Space Station. It felt that I could follow it and it wouldn't be too, over the top for me. It was a thriller, looked interesting. However,
oh boy.
Yeah, it changed for me.
I was looking forward to basically something to the equivalent of The Hateful Eight in space.
Oh.
And instead I got The Snooze in space.
Oof. Now, for you, was it snooze the whole time? Did it lose you at some point? Where did it go?
The film lost me about halfway through.
Oh, okay. So the first half, what would you say?
The first half, and then the first real startle point, when you lose the first crew member, it really...
Spoiler alert, people die.
People don't like each other in this movie cinema community.
Well, and I like that, though. It was interesting because they're all looking out and, it's this love fest. They have dinner together. They're exchanging pictures. And they look out and chaos ensues. In other words, a war down below is happening, which to me is intriguing.
One of the things I felt like this movie did not do enough is it counted on our understanding of the conflict that exists here on Earth to inform what was going on in space. And I wanted to see more interpersonal conflict before they started going for each other. I wanted to see almost that tension start to go. Because then all you need is something to light that powder keg off. And we had the perfect fuse to be lit. The question is there a fuse to begin with?
All right, I would say there is because, since back in the day, right, the Cold War, and to me that was an overly familiar premise, right? The U.S. hates Russia and we don't like the Soviets, and it was like, all right, it's been there, done that, lived through that. And honestly, to me, that was the biggest negative. It was like, oh, they're doing that again. And I was hoping that it would be more intriguing or more interesting.
But I wanted to see more personal stakes for the characters. All we had was one guy complaining about another guy's taste in music. And it's like, oh, bomb went off. I'm going to kill you.
But there was a romantic pairing.
Yes.
There was kind of, wink and nod. And then one of the astronauts was going out into space from the space station. And there was like this big dramatic kiss, and it was like, oh, they're together.
They did kind of lampshade it in the film, like, okay, you can't keep it secret forever. And then all of a sudden we get backstory. And I think the other problem I had with this movie is it only forced you to care about the characters when it was convenient. There was very little groundwork to establish other than, hey, I brought your family's presents up here to you at the space station, before you go, oh, that's sweet, they actually care about each other. And then all of a sudden, like I said, I just felt like maybe a little bit more time with these characters could have had some of the later scenes, which were good, have some impact.
Let me ask you this. It was an hour and a half, which honestly for me, that was attractive. It sounds like for you, you would have liked it maybe a little bit longer so they had more time, or the time they would have used that to develop their relationships.
If you're going to have a powder keg explode, you need to lay the groundwork. And I think an extra 20 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes could have helped this movie a lot.
And you think that was the biggest fault of the screenplay or the actors? Because I was actually, the acting to me was good.
Yes, I think the actors did really well with the material that they were given. I think it's a screenplay issue.
Okay.
Because you could feel the actors trying to insert themselves in these situations. You could feel the actors grasping for what depth they did have in the screenplay. So I'm not going to blame the cast on this one. I think this is purely a production issue. I think this is, we need a quick and dirty film that explores these themes. And the director is known for discussing sociological themes in a documentary landscape as well as a mildly fictional landscape. I think a little bit more time could have given this movie a lot more oomph. And I'm not just talking about the special effects.
But that's interesting, though, too, because you're talking about the director, and she's known for documentaries.
Yes.
And had this been a little bit more of a documentary feel, that's interesting. It sounds like that may have gone further. I just kind of laugh because there's a part where they enter the space station, they get to know each other, and it almost felt like check, check, check.
Yes.
And this movie but it's a thriller too. So they get to know each other. They kind of like each other. You have a little bit of a foundation. And I laugh. It's kind of like chaos ensues. To me, it's like, and then the bloodbath ensues. It's like, oh, that's the thriller part. And I understand that. And there was some suspense that I did like, though, for this.
I agree. I just think a little bit more tension. What I'm looking for is character studies. I want to get to know each of the characters. And there were several points, and this is the kiss of death for any of these types of movies, where you go, I really don't care what happens to these people.
I'm laughing. Well, they're in space. They may not be coming back. The thing that challenged me, and this may sound picky-uni or small, there were two Russian characters, or the cosmonauts, right up at the space station. And to me, they looked so similar in dress, beard, and I didn't think that was helping the story, meaning they had two very different positions, meaning one was a little bit more sinister and the other one was a little bit more kind. So completely different characters, but they looked so similar. I would look quickly and I'm like, oh, which one is it? Bad guy, good guy, bad guy, good guy. And to me, that was distracting. That shouldn't have happened in my mind.
I think that might have been a choice from the costumer's perspective.
Sure.
Kind of create this uniform visual. You know, they're very united front. The Americans are more individualistic.
I can appreciate that. I don't disagree with the sentiment. However, the execution, I think, detracted from what they were trying to communicate. If I'm over there going, and I asked someone on our team and they said, did you know? And I'm like, oh my gosh, me too. But clearly I didn't, poll the people coming out of the theater and say, hey, were you confused? I wasn't so confused that it ruined it for me.
I know it was distracting because we talked about it on our way to the studio.
And I know the other part that you were talking about that was distracting to you was the special effects.
Yeah, the special effects, when they're so bad, they're like, there's an astronaut out in space. I literally spend like 2 minutes trying to find the guy because he's just so blended in to the background.
I agree with that. I know the scene you're talking about, and it was meant to be so suspenseful, and yet I don't think it was comical. Like I said, there were parts of this movie that were pretty good. Yeah,
I feel like the cinematography kind of lent itself to a where's Waldo moment in that situation. And that's not what you want to have in that situation because you're almost laughing. You're like, wait, can you show that scene again? I didn't see him. It's just, that's not what you want. You want the audience to go, oh crap, he's out there. We have to go get him.
Well, and you see where he is.
Even if it's something subtle, like maybe the lighting is diffused around him so you can see the silhouette of the astronaut.
I'm laughing. The scream followed the screaming. Although I don't think you can hear screaming in space. Yeah, maybe no. Do we have any questions from the box?
We've seen lots of sci-fi movies. Do you think this one brought something new to the genre that's unique?
I think setting it aboard the ISS is an interesting choice. The ISS is a notable landmark for world relations, and to have it just dissolve in the space of an afternoon. Plus, you also have the tension of not only are these people acting out their political theater in space, you have the very real problem of the actual landscape trying to destroy itself.
I agree. I've obviously seen less sci-fi movies than you have, so it's hard for me to directly compare it to different ones. However, like you said, the premise was reasonably interesting. It feels a little tired, meaning, the two countries. But as you had said, if there had been more relational pieces, I think the tension would have felt a little bit, I would have been more invested. And I think that was the challenge for me, is I didn't feel overly invested, even though initially I was genuinely pretty excited about seeing the movie.
Yeah, I just feel really sad that this movie kind of wasted its emotional allotment pretty early on in the movie.
Do we have any other questions from the box?
Let's talk about the ending. What did you think of the ending? Were you satisfied? Or did it leave you wanting something else, something more? What did you want?
Basically, there's two endings. There's the ending that we think is going to happen, and then there's additional scene. I think they should have stopped at the first ending, because I think it would have gave the movie something original that could be built off. Instead, it just feels like you're setting up for a sequel that you have no idea where it's going.
I would agree with that. The first ending I thought was the ending. And had it ended at that point, I would have been reasonably satisfied. Like, oh, okay, they've wrapped it up in a reasonable way. The final ending, it was like, oh, that's it. And the ending itself was pretty unoriginal, but the dialogue that went with it was so unsatisfying. And to me, it was stupid. It was like, and I know it sounds very intelligent, it was stupid, but it just kind of was. It was like,
there's one thing they did in that ending that I did like.
okay.
And I can't say it because I'll spoil the movie.
Correct, but I just think the dialogue was disappointing.
Pick an ending. It's either this ending or the other ending, honestly.
I would agree with that. I don't think two endings, and that's the problem. It felt like if they end it, we're done, we're good. But then to bring it back, it's like, oh, now you're doing something else. It's like either you can't decide, or somehow you thought the second one was better than the first one, and I think it weakened the movie. And if that's the last thing you walk away with from this movie, I think our cinema community may be very disappointed. Rebecca, it is that time of the show. I have 5 spacey moths.
A lot of them are going to be floating away today.
Yeah, right. They're floating in space without a space station. What do you think, 1 to 5? What would you rate this movie?
This is a 2 moth movie.
Oof. All right. Number 1 reason for 2.
There's a lot of interesting ideas. The cast is pretty solid.
Agreed.
It just doesn't stick the landing.
Oof. All right. Do you think it's worth a watch?
I think if you're into this genre, it's a unique perspective that I think you'll find something in it. If you're not a fan of this genre, you might want to stay home for this one.
Wow. Would you see it in the theater, or?
I thought the sound design was interesting in the theater, so I think from that perspective, it's valuable. Mm-hmm. But this is going to end up on FX as their Thursday night movie pretty soon. I have a sneaking suspicion.
I agree with that.
I'd be curious to hear from our cinema community, and if they'd comment below, what's your favorite sci-fi thriller?
All right, 1 to 5. I know, me too. I honestly would give it a 3.
I'm surprised.
I know.
You normally do not go for these.
I agree. I think the 3 is solid enough because I did like the acting. The first part of the movie, it's not even the first 5 minutes. The first half of the movie I felt was intriguing enough. The thriller aspect before it, digressed into a bloodbath was interesting, right? The eyes, where the camera would go, the scientists, what they were studying, little floating rats and things. It was interesting enough.
If you enjoyed our review on the I.S.S, please like, which helps more viewers find our cinema community, and subscribe so you don't miss our upcoming reviews, and please share with your friends.
Rebecca, it is that time of the show to talk about who we are. Not sponsored by this week.
Does NASA stand for not sponsored by?
Actually, it kind of does at this point. Today, we are not sponsored by Alpha Industries.
Ooh.
You know about Alpha Industries.
I do. I see their jackets basically on every streetwear shopping website I go on lately.
Holy moly, they're everywhere. So let's talk about them. They have been in existence since 1959, originated in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Younger than my grandpa.
Yeah, right. They originally started off, they were contractors to the military. Literally, they had bomber jackets in 1963.
We toast you.
I laughed too. And then the field jacket, 1965. And their original parka, 1959. There are silhouettes, right? They still use these today.
They're pretty successful.
It's kind of cool because they're bragging. Sailors wore their materials, soldiers, aviators. I'm laughing because we had done Ray-Ban when we were discussing Top Gun. I'm thinking the coat and the glasses, pretty cool, right?
Pretty nifty.
I know you have talked to me about them over the years because of their collaborations.
Their collabs, to me, are the most exciting part about the business. It's what keeps them alive in the public consciousness for me. And it also shows the willingness they are to try new things with these brands.
And I cracked up, too, because they've done collaborations with NASA. This is why we thought, hey, they want to talk to us about I.S.S. movie. They want us to talk about their product. But it's not just NASA. They have collaborated, a ton of different companies, but like Doc Martens and New Balance. It's just kind of funky because I'm thinking, oh, NASA, some of the sports teams and everything. And then they're like, oh, yeah, but New Balance and Doc Martens, all these other funky companies. I'm like, but yet they don't want to sponsor us.
Maybe I should start wearing more Doc Martens on the show.
I agree. But I must tell you, my favorite products, do you know what my favorite products are from them?
Well, I know you always complain about getting cold. My guess would be the jackets.
Actually, yeah, the jackets I really thought were cool. But they also have, and I know you appreciate this, they have beanies that are slightly overpriced. Kind of expensive, but they're good looking. I appreciate that.
This is how you know they're not sponsoring us.
But my favorite one is they're like, oh, we're not going to sponsor you. But you know what else they make? They actually make dog collars.
I need one for my cat immediately.
I laugh. It's like dog collars. And that's what I was thinking of. I'm like, you could just put that on your little kitty. But it was like one of my favorite products. I'm like, okay, they're trying to be progressive. They have dog collars. So, what do you not think about that?
They cover everything, apparently. Beanies, jackets, dogs.
Exactly, right. Not people collars. So, yeah, that's what it is. So, not sponsored this week by Alpha Industries.
Thanks, Alpha Industries, for not sponsoring us. It's that time of the show where we want to hear from you. We'd love to see your comments on our videos, especially if you're rating of the movie and why. Now let's talk about some of the cool comments we've been getting, Teresa.
First up, we have Raymond's8354 commented on our 60-second review of Anyone But You. Here's what he had to say. I'm so glad I discovered this movie. Some of the moments are now among my fondest cinema memories, honestly. Wow.
I remember you didn't like it, but I'm very happy to see that Raymond had a great cinema experience with this movie.
I would agree with that. I agree that we don't always agree on things. However, I just laugh. Our responses was, well, not so great. He's like, oh my gosh, these are memories for me. But that tells us how diverse our cinema community is.
And that's why I don't mind hearing differing opinions. Sometimes somebody else's great memory might spark something in you to check out the movie that you never thought you'd be seeing.
Absolutely.
Next up, we have Stephanie DC 1128, who commented on our review of Mean Girls. Here's what she had to say. Honestly, the reason this movie fell flat is because 95% of the cast can't actually act. Oof. In the original, the majority went on to become A-list actors or came from the Second City world of improv. I agree that the original definitely had more well-known actors and actresses, and they parlayed that into greater fame. It's going to be interesting to see how the new cast stacks up 5 to 10 years from now. But honestly, I disagree about the can acting part. I think for a teen movie, it wasn't bad.
The other part, and I hear what she's saying.
I do too.
But the names we know, and we have the advantage of saying, where did Lindsay Lohan go at that point? And I agree that we don't know yet. I don't think the acting was overly horrible. However, I do hear what she's saying, that some of these movies do have acting that's a little bit challenged, but musically it felt pretty tight.
The other thing is the original cast has the added advantage of having street cred, as it were.
That is true.
I think for a lot of these actors and actresses in this movie, this is their first time in an actual movie, not on a stage. It's a different way of acting. It genuinely is.
I agree with that. I appreciate such a strong comment, though. That, I mean, it's not, oh, wonder what she's thinking. It's, here's what I think, here's where I think it went wrong. In some movies, you and I agree, the acting definitely takes it down.
Strong comments definitely give us something to talk about, so keep making them.
Finally, we have Willendozer6961 who commented on our review of American Fiction. Here's what they had to say. I saw this movie last night. I did not expect Tracy's character to suddenly, quote, disappear. I'm going to read the book.
It's always cool to me to see how people respond to mediums, because when books take away a certain character,
yes,
you feel that impact. In a movie, it's all of a sudden you blink, it's like, where'd they go?
Yes.
It's a completely different emotional minefield that you're having to navigate as a moviegoer. I also love the fact that they're going to check out the book.
Exactly, because you and I have discussed many a times, books and movies are different. I love the fact that the movie compelled our viewer to actually read the book, meaning it wasn't as if they went in there and said, oh, I've read the book, let's see how it matches up. It's like, wow, now that I saw this, now I want to read the book. And I laugh because that comment is true. Tracy just disappeared.
Well, we can't say why she disappeared without spoiling half the movie.
Correct. But honestly, American Fiction, we both gave it a 5 Moth rating. It's a great movie, and I hope our cinema community checks out the book as well.
We love this movie so much, some of the Cocoon cast team actually went back and saw it a second time recently.
Yes, we did. What's your point? And now it's time for some Hollywood news. Rebecca.
Well, we're going to ignore Sundance, otherwise we're going to get spoiled so much for reviews. But it is going on this weekend, so keep your ears and your eyes peeled for all the new release deals. But I got some more exciting news than that.
Wow. More than that? All right. What you reading? Where you reading it?
Deadline from Melanie Goodfellow has brought us the all-important news that Anatomy of a Fall is being recognized in Britain.
Yay! We loved Anatomy of a Fall.
We did. Please watch our review to see why we love this movie. Highly, highly encourage you to watch this movie.
I would say, and cinema community, if you've seen Anatomy of a Fall, please comment below. We can't be the only ones to have liked this movie.
This is huge. I cannot overstate this enough.
Ooh.
This movie has made, as of, I want to say January 10th,
Okay.
$2 million in Britain.
Oh, just in Britain.
Just in Britain.
Ooh.
And they're still getting nominated for a BAFTA. In fact, they got nominated for 7 awards. They got nominated for Best Director in Film, Best Original Screenplay, Best Film Not in the English Language. Sandra Hüller, the main female lead, received nomination for Best Actress, Casting, and also Editing.
And they did win at the Golden Globes.
They did.
They did.
And I'm really just so invested in this race now because you realize what this means. This means that Yorgos has been shut out for Poor Things in this race.
Wow.
Martin Scorsese is shut out for Killers of the Flower Moon.
Yes.
He's not nominated for Best Director. Greta is even shut out for Barbie in this race.
Wow. Wow.
She's beat all of them.
That's
and the
amazing.
BAFTAs are just this huge presence in the award season. They give you a good perspective of what the greater cinema community is thinking, not just the American cinema community.
And that's the great thing, right? Because this is a French movie.
Yes.
Which is great because it says not only the United States produces good quality movies, which hopefully our cinema community knows, but as you said, this highlights this point.
I'm just so happily blown away. I'm sorry, I can't stop smiling. This is an amazing film. It deserves its flowers, and I'm just so happy to see the rest of the cinema community at large taking notice.
I agree with you. It was a fabulous movie. The screenplay, I know you had sent me a link where you can literally read the screenplay. It was so well acted. It was so good of a movie just at the beginning.
Keep in mind, we read the screenplay after we saw this movie.
That is correct. That is correct. We try not to spoil it before we see it, and then we try not to spoil it here. And so I think sometimes we feel a little bit cagey, but yes, agreed.
It's not intentional to be cagey.
Do we have any questions from the box?
So the Golden Globes liked it. BAFTA likes it. Do you think the Oscars are going to like it?
It all depends on whether they win the BAFTA. I could easily see this being France's best foreign film placement, but if it's going to sweep it like Parasite, it needs to start sweeping other awards. You need that momentum to build because the Oscar votes are almost coming due. So this is huge.
The Oscars are in March?
That's correct. And if there's anything Oscars love, it's a narrative. You love that triumphant step up to the podium to get the little gold guy.
Nice. I'm excited too.
I'm hoping for a Parasite sweep. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of talent that isn't in this film that deserves notice and recognition, and I hope they get through the nomination, but I'm secretly pining for either an Oppenheimer, Anatomy of a Fall, Face Off.
I'm just laughing. If Ken were in this movie and singing a song, it would be the perfect movie.
He does murder.
Ooh, yeah, exactly. Nice. Rebecca, I hear John Williams has a building.
He does indeed. The Sony movie motion pictures lot.
He has a parking lot? What?
Hold on. It's the John Williams Music Building. There have been so many scores composed and created in this building, including 20 collabs with Steven Spielberg.
It sounds like a museum. So this is a studio that other people can go to? Mm-hmm. All right.
That's correct.
I'm laughing. It sounds like the college is like the John Williams building.
It kind of has that feel.
It does.
It was like a star-studded mini gala. J.J. Abrams even showed up.
Oh my. Oh my.
This was all Steven's idea, as his way of saying thank you to his buddy. I think that's just super sweet, and you're always asking for more fluff on the show, and the box is asking for less strikes and less digital content thrifting implosions. So I figured, hey, we got to talk about this.
Oh, and Steven Spielberg, we could talk about him all day, and you would know. No complaints coming over here. The box, however, would be like, oh, no, not again. And where are you reading this from?
This is from Deadline. Pete Hammond brought us this delightful news. Now, normally Pete...
I like it. Delightful news. It is indeed.
Normally Pete focuses on the awards show chatter, so I thought it was kind of funny that Pete's like, all right, you know what? I need a fluff article in my life.
He's excited too. And honestly, the fluff is nice. It's nice to hear the good news out there. Especially John Williams, right? Of all the people, I'm like, yes, 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 yes.
There's a really sweet quote in this article I want to read. This month marks the 100th anniversary of Columbia Pictures. How fitting that the timing to the pantheon names that grace the buildings on the historic lot, like Capra, Portier, Lear, Thalberg, we add Williams, the greatest film composer at all time, to the very building where so much of the joy he created happened.
Wow. And my understanding, 20 of his 29 films? Mm-hmm. Wow. This is historic. I like it. Anything negative about that, or?
Williams specifically asked that there be some extra bathrooms added.
Oh, wow.
This is
building with his name on it. Everybody's coming out and he's like, just have a slight modification. Could we, maybe?
They don't call him John for no reason.
Oh, great. That's a dad joke.
Wow. The box emerges.
It's an actual verbatim quote in the article. So
wow.
I guess it's fair game at this point.
Yowza. Do we have any questions from the box?
All right. We all like John Williams, but let's talk. Who is your other, if it's John Williams, but who's your other favorite composer?
My pick is going to be a little out of left field, but if you know what films I like, it's not going to be so surprising. Johan Johansson.
Oh, and tell our cinema community what you know him from.
Actually, one of the films on my shelf, Theory of Everything. I feel like Johan really brought the films that he scored an indescribable emotional depth.
Wow. Okay.
I know a lot of our cinema community may know him from things like Arrival and other Denis Villeneuve films, but I think he's more than that. I really fell in love with him when I first heard the track O Ti Amo.
Oh, wow. Okay.
It's
That's
off
fair.
of his solo stuff, so to speak.
Yes.
But it really just, every time I hear it, I fall into this place of melancholy peace. And I really see that in his great scores, like the ones that he's done for Theory of Everything. Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago. So I think this would make it more poignant to choose him.
Wow.
He's from Iceland, and I feel like that's a country that doesn't always get its due respect in the wider cinema community.
All of Iceland think
We are a joke.
That's not true.
and my father is ashamed of me.
No, he's not.
He looked me into the eyes and said, I am ashamed of you.
Maybe he was drunk.
He said, and you might think that I'm drunk, but I am dead sober.
It's surprising to me. I would say for me, probably my number one is Thomas Newman. I
knew
love Thomas Newman, and James Newton Howard I adore. I keep thinking Hidden Life comes to my mind, and it feels almost Isaac Perlman-ish. It's just beautiful. Thanks for joining us this week. We're always excited to create experiences to bring our cinema community together.
Next week, we are excited to be reviewing The Father, and on our Movies and More weekly show, the new movie, Miller's Girl.
Please remember to like, subscribe, and to share our channel.
If you enjoyed this show, you might check out last week where we reviewed Mean Girls, the musical, the movie. And at our Movies and More weekly show, we reviewed The Book of Clarence.
Remember, cinema community movies are better together. Thanks for watching. See you in the next review.